Types of characters. What is character? This is a very important question. A character is a person, animal, being, creature, or thing in a story. Writers use characters to perform the actions and speak dialogue, moving the story along a plot line. A story can have only one character, protagonist, and still be a complete story. The most stories have multiple characters interacting with one of them as the antagonist, causing a conflict for the protagonist. So there are lots of characters, and we basically see such characters in our daily life as well. But as far as we are going to talk about, we are going to discuss about the characters, those basically we usually observe when we go through different novels, dramas, stories. In literature, there are many different sort of characters, each with its own growth and role. Character growth and role is a very important question because characters grow according to the situation, observation, and with the passage of time. The importance of character. Characters are what make stories. Without a character, there is no story to tell, only a lot of scenery. Many characters in literature, television series, and movies have a huge impact on people. Some people like to live their lives through these characters who appear to have more exciting lives. Also, these characters may seem so real and inspirational that people forget they are fictional. And sometimes we try to act like characters. Character development. The level of growth and complexity of a character is referred to as character development. Some characters are well developed from the outset. For example, knowing how a character moves and talks, what she thinks, who she hangs out with, and what sort of secrets she has makes her more complicated and developed. So, character development is a very significant question as well, which is usually asked in exams. So we also come to know that what does mean by character development and how a character develops. Other characters change during the course of a tale, beginning one way and ending another due to what occurs to them. Alternatively, you may only see one aspect of a character for a long before discovering another, demonstrating the character's complexity. There are different types of characters: protagonist, antagonist, love interest, confidant, foil, Deuteragonist. Character types. Character types can be classified in three ways. One way is to use archetype, general description of the many sorts of characters that appear in human stories. Another method is to classify characters according to the role they perform throughout the tale or drama or novel or story. The third technique is to categorize characters according to their qualities, describing how they evolve or remain the same throughout a story. Uh, in today's video, what are we going to do? We are just going to discuss the types based on role. So let's see what are the different things those are included in it. Protagonist, antagonist, Deuteragonist, tertiary, confidante or confidant, love interest, and foil. Protagonist. The protagonist is likely a pretty familiar concept for most of us. This is the main character, the big cheese, the star of the show. Most of the action centers around them, and they are the one we are meant to care about the most. And protagonists are usually taken as the most important character of the story or drama or novel or a play. And usually the story moves around the protagonist. In stories written with a first person point of view, the protagonist is usually the narrator, but not always. It's not necessary. The narrator can also be someone close to the man, like Nick in the Great Gatsby, or we may talk about someone completely removed, though this is relatively rare. Protagonist, for instance, we can say Harry Potter. In Harry Potter, the character of Harry Potter is protagonist. Then Antonia in The Merchant of Venus, and Indiana Jones in Order. So, in different stories, the main leading character is protagonist. Then we have opposite of protagonist, antagonist. Most of the time, the protagonist is good and the antagonist is evil, and such is the source of their conflict. This is not always the case, especially if the protagonist is an anti hero who lacks typical heroic attributes, or the antagonist is an anti villain who has noble characteristics. Still, 95% of the time, the protagonist is the hero and the antagonist is the villain. Usually this is the concept, because or it's basically when we talk about antagonist, so it is from the anti, so that's why antagonists usually play just as important a role in a story as their protagonist counterparts, but they may not be seen as much. They tend not to narrate stories and often operate in secret. Indeed, the question of what will the antagonist do next can be a source of great narrative tension in a story. For instance, Voldemort in Harry Potter and Sherlock in Merchant of Venice are the famous characters of Antagonist. Deuteragonist. Most stories have a primary protagonist and the secondary Deuteragonist. This is the character who's not exactly in the spotlight, but pretty close to it. Such characters are usually equivalent in the comic book would probably be the sidekick. They are often seen in the company of protagonists, giving them advice, plotting against their rivals, and generally lending a helping hand. Their presence and close relationship to the protagonist gives the story warmth and heart. So it's not just about the hero's journey, but it's about the friends they make along the way. If we talk about the example, to Samwise Gamgee in The Lord of the Rings, and then Ron and Hermione in Harry Potter. So these are very, I think these examples are more than enough to clear the concept of this third type of character. Tertiary characters, the reason that tertiary characters aren't called Tertagonist is because they are not important enough to really agonize anything or anyone. They perhaps only appearing in one or two scenes throughout the book, play, drama. However, a well-rounded story still requires a few tertiaries. We all have them in real life. For instance, here we can say the Callo and Fabrizio in The Godfather, and then Padma and the Parvati in Harry Potter. We had hardly seen these people, these characters, in the movies or in drama, um, hardly 2 to 3 times. So these are the very good example of tertiary characters. Love interest. Most novels contain romance in one form or another. It might be the main plot, a subplot, or just a blip on the narrative radar. But not matter how it features, there has to be some sort of love interest involved. This love interest is typically a deuteragonist, but not exclusively, hence why this separate category. You'll recognize a love interest by the protagonist's strong reaction to them, though that reaction can vary widely. Some love interests make their swoon, or others make them scoff. The protagonist often denies their feelings for this reason at first, or vice versa, which is great plot thickening device. No matter what, if they are well written, you should find yourself curious about whatever love interest pops up on the page. For instance, Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man and Mr. Darcy in The Pride and Prejudice are the good example of love interest. Confident. This one's even harder to pin down, especially since many stories focus so much on their um, love interest that other relationships get left out in the cold. However, the confidant can still be one of the most profound relationships to the protagonist has in a novel or in a drama, a story, or a play. Confidants are often best friends, but they may also be a potential love interest or even a mentor. The protagonist shares their thoughts and emotions with this person, even when they are reluctant to share with anyone. However, the confidant might also become the we can say it's a turn towards, or not because they want to, but because they feel they have no other choice. So that's why they basically discuss with them. Confident example, there are a few examples. Let's check. What do we have here? Mrs. Lovett. This is the best example. And then Dumbledore. Dumbledore in Harry Potter. This is another example of it. Foil character. A foil character is someone whose personality and values fundamentally clash with the protagonist. This clash highlights about the defining attributes, giving us a better picture of who they truly are. Though these two often have an antagonistic relationship, the foil is not usually the primary antagonist. Sometimes these are basically um, the MC and their foil clash at first, but eventually see past their differences to become friends or even more. Think about the protagonist in when Harry met Sally. First, they are foils, then friends, and then finally lovers, right? The foil's precise relationship to the protagonist depends on the differences between them. For example, if we talk about someone is introverted, their foil might be super extrovert, but that wouldn't necessarily preclude the two of them from becoming friends. However, if this is kind and selfless, the person is kind and selfless, and their foil is extremely self serving, they are probably not going to get along. We can say Effie Trinket in the Hunger Game, the foil character, and the Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter. These are the characters, those are foil characters. Darso Malfoy. Thank you. And in the next video, we will discuss some other types of characters. Those would be helpful for you, especially from your exams point of view. Thank you.